educators, welcome to EduTalk Collaborative Conversations, the show where passionate educators converge to talk about all things teaching. In every episode of EduTalk, we delve into an insightful educational research study and hear from a dynamic panel of educators to discuss the study and then translate the findings into tangible tools for our everyday endeavors in education. I'm your host, Jeni Langfelt, and I can't wait to share this episode's study with you and introduce you to today's panel of dynamic educators joining me here on set at KPAO Omaha Community Television. I am thrilled that you're joining us today. You are an important part of this growing community of empowered educators. Together, we can transform education one conversation at a time. Without further ado, let's delve into this episode's research study. The impact of racism and deficit view of Black students in education is profound and multifaceted. When Black students are subjected to educational environments that emphasize their shortcomings rather than their strengths, it erodes their academic self-confidence and aspirations. This deficit view can lead to lower teacher expectations, fewer opportunities for advanced coursework, and a lack of culturally relevant curriculum, all of which hinder Black students' academic growth and engagement. Furthermore, Black students may experience microaggressions, biased disciplinary practices, and inequitable access to resources. These factors collectively limit Black students' potential and perpetuate cycles of inequality. To disrupt these adverse outcomes, it is imperative that we adopt an asset-based approach that recognizes and celebrates their resilience, their talents, their contributions of all Black students, thereby fostering an inclusive and supportive educational environment. In this episode of EduTalk, we are exploring the article, "Listen When I Come to the Table, Reimagining Education with and for Black Elementary-Aged Youth and Their Mothers." It was written by Addison Duane and Lauren Mims and was published in October 2022. A recent meta-analysis revealed that Black students across all K-12 grade levels are more than twice as likely to face school disciplinary actions and receive harsher penalties compared to the white students. In this study, the researchers used community culture wealth to explore Black children and their mothers' abolitionist freedom dreams. School abolition harnesses the cultural wealth of student communities by promoting environments where everyone matters, where they fight together to achieve a shared vision, and they resist oppression. It isn't about reform. Instead, abolitionists envision schools that embody the belief that no one is disposable, creating spaces that are just, loving, equitable, and centered on Black, brown, and Indigenous lives. This study used a community-based research, semi-structured interviews, and narrative thematic analysis to understand the education dreams of Black youth and their mothers. The researchers included 11 Black elementary school students aged 11 to 7 and their 11 Black mothers. At the time of the interviews, the children were in grades 2 through 6, and they attended a mix of public and charter schools in a large urban Midwestern city. Both the mothers and children described their ideal school environments in detail. Mothers based their visions on their children's strengths, interests, talents, and learning needs. Children shared their experiences from elementary school along with their imaginative ideas. 4 main themes emerged: learning opportunities, family engagement, infrastructure and resources, educators, and culture. Theme 1, participants emphasized rethinking the content and the learning methods. Many advocated for a curriculum that included science, technology, art, math, and literacy, including physical activities, music, and hands-on learning. They viewed traditional homework as a burden and envisioned learning environments driven by children's interests and their future career aspirations, incorporating interactive and student-centered approaches. Theme 2, family engagement, emerged as crucial for fostering a safer, supportive school environment. Participants envisioned involvement that goes beyond the traditional roles like attending parent-teacher conferences and prioritized children's strengths and comfort. Theme 3, participants identified the need for improved school infrastructure and resources to create an environment that was an effective learning environment. They pointed out issues like outdated facilities, insufficient sinks, missing bathroom doors, and poor lighting. Desired improvements included more spacious, well-equipped classrooms, accessible technology, and ample school supplies. Recess and lunch were also highlighted, with calls for more recess time and better quality food. Participants envisioned personalized classroom with comfortable seating and adequate supplies. Theme 4. Participants envisioned a positive child-centered school culture that emphasizes inclusivity and accessibility, supporting students of all abilities and backgrounds. They highlighted the importance of emotional security and compassion. Participants also called for the elimination of harsh disciplinary measures, advocating instead for kinder and more supportive approaches. This episode's article highlights systems inequalities faced by Black students and advocates for an asset-based approach to education. This study used community cultural wealth as a framework. It explored the educational dreams of Black students and their mothers, emphasizing diverse learning opportunities, family engagement, improved school infrastructure, and a positive, inclusive school climate. Participants envisioned educational environments that are just, loving, and centered on the needs and aspirations of Black students. Up next, our panel of diverse educators will discuss the findings of this study and the implications it has on our everyday practices in education. Stay tuned, an insightful conversation awaits.
Please note that the opinions and views expressed by the host and panelists on this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their employers or affiliated organizations.
Hello, fellow educators. Welcome back to EduTalk Collaborative Conversations. I'm your host, Jenny, and I am so glad that you are with us today. I cannot wait for you to meet today's panelists. They are three amazing, passionate, dedicated individuals who are doing some amazing things in education. And today, I just want you to think that your network of colleagues got just a little bit bigger. So before we jump into the article that we're going to discuss today, I want them to take just a few moments to introduce themselves to you. And I think we're going to start first with Dr. Andrea Karp. Hello.
Hello, how are
Welcome.
you?
Good.
Yes,
How are
thank
you?
you so much. Yes, so I'm Andrea Karf, and I always wanted to be an educator, although I didn't know that working with multilingual learners was going to be my path, but that's something that just sort of happened, one of those, happy moments, and I haven't looked back. It is something that is just a passion of mine. So I was a high school ESL teacher. I prefer to use the word like working with multilingual learners, but yes, but I was an ESL teacher for a very long time, and now I am at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and I am working with teacher candidates who are interested in getting their ESL endorsement. So
Yay.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, up next is Dr. Dernisha Phillips.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I want to enter in gratitude to be here with you all today. This is my 20th year in education. I'm walking into it right now. And so my why has always been activism. So to me, being an educator is my greatest form of activism. So whatever the role, it's always to nurture, challenge, inspire for the purpose of our babies, the youth, and then also our community. So I started out as a third grade teacher. I love the littles in the cadre program at UNO.
Yeah.
I love cadre.
Yeah.
And then I was an instructional facilitator and had various administrative roles. I went back 15 years after being a cadre teacher and was a cadre associate. So that was a full circle moment. And then assistant principal and a building principal. And then 4 years ago, transitioned full-time into my education consulting business. So I have Dow Education Care Solutions, and I really focus in on support-focused practices for schools, principal coaching, and work with education-focused organizations. And what a lot of people don't know is some of my passion work right now is I'm leading the charge in the community of a group of energized women, and we're starting an all-girls middle school in North Omaha for 4th through 8th grade girls, Identity Preparatory Academy. So, surprise!
Surprise! I have so many questions.
So many questions. Have me on another episode.
Yeah, for sure. It's a deal. Beautiful. And then
Awesome.
last but not least, we have Peter Ferguson with us today.
Well, no, truly appreciative to be in this space, but also with these esteemed colleagues. And so my name is Peter Ferguson. I have to always start off by saying I'm the son of Howard and Alita Ferguson. My father was a 25-year military vet, and my mom was a 40-year educator. Both are deceased, but they rest in power in so many different ways. I'm a non-traditional educator, to be perfectly honest. I have to give a shout out. You gave the Mavs a shout out. I'm a graduate of Hastings College, and I went there for broadcast journalism. I truly wanted to be Bernard Shaw when I grew up and on CNN, and I realized he was doing a lot of his reporting in war-torn spaces. And so, but I was always involved with young people, always involved with youth and youth development. And so as I came out, I was working for a variety of nonprofit agencies, mostly with youth development, served as the vice president of an agency for a number of years, Big Brothers Big Sisters I worked at, and then kind of went into a role at Lincoln Public Schools. And so I've been at Lincoln Public Schools for approximately 17 years and started as I was not certificated staff. So as a classified staff, as a technician, oversaw a major grant on relationship building, and then moved to overseeing a youth development department that worked with a variety of scholars. I don't like the term at risk because a colleague of mine, Bill Bryant, said it so eloquently: everybody's at risk of you not giving them a chance. And so we engaged families, scholars, but also advocated in that role. And now in my current role, I'm the coordinator of culture, inclusion, and scholar development, as well as the assistant director of recruitment for Lincoln Public Schools. And so you talked about why.
Yeah.
I transition that. I always say my purpose, because sometimes your why can go away. And so my purpose is to empower, educate, and engage. And that's real, in brevity, that's kind of my story into the educational realm.
I knew pieces of that. I didn't know all of that, so that is super enlightening. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
So you guys, we read an article about the dreams of Black children in their education along with their mothers. And so we're going to talk about like what implications does that have for us in our everyday endeavors and what we're doing. And we have different roles. And so we're going to start with Dr. Phillips. Okay. All right. So up first, how do the visions and dreams shared by Black youth in this study resonate with your experiences and observations in the schools you've led and now consult with?
Well, first, I just want to say it's not lost on me that we're having this conversation during National Black Child Development Week. Come on. So this is an important conversation.
Yes.
And what resonated with me after reading the article was that this is exactly what I hear from the youth that I encounter. They have lots to say.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of ideas, innovation. I love that we are talking about freedom dreaming, because when we give them spaces and places, we're not giving them voice, they have voice. And I love that that was pointed out. Love that. They want us to listen to them. Yeah. And so one of the last spaces where I had a youth panel and some of the youth were talking about their own advocacy, they stood up and said, one of the high school students said, I have a lot to say about what I want for me and my life and my education. She said, what I would love help understanding is how do we help adults know that we have these things to say, and that by disagreeing with them, that's not in and of itself disrespectful to disagree, because we have our own ideas about what's best for us too, and we just want a chance to say those things. And I just thought, man, if we listen to these babies, they have a lot of the answers. And then in that way, education is something that is done with them and for them, and to really nurture them and help them, rather than it being felt like it's something that's done to them, which I think a lot of them feel like, oh, this is something I have to do, rather than being excited.
So good. I love that you said we're not giving anyone a voice. We're giving them our ears. You know, we want to hear what they have to say. So good. Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Karp. Okay, so in your research, you have focused on supporting teacher candidates and their pedagogical journey. Is it pedagogy?
Every time.
So I pause there. Okay, say it how you want. How do you perceive the impact of integrating Black youth voices in shaping culturally responsive teaching methods?
That's a really good question. And one thing that I feel like when I read this article, I was just super intrigued, super passionate about like just the idea of putting so much autonomy with our students, and it was amazing. What I will say too, though, is that when I was thinking about like how I respond to these questions, especially thinking from like putting on the hat of me being an ESL teacher, when I felt like it's important to acknowledge that when I was thinking about the students that I worked with, when I think about Black youth, the students that I was working with, they would be students that were from, I taught high school, so they were from Africa, mainly South Sudan and Somalia. And so even then, like, this is different languages and cultures that I was working with, but like different than I think the population that was like asked in this study, but still that they were the students that were on my brain when I was thinking about these questions. And what I very much appreciated, and what I feel like was the biggest thing when I think about multilingual learners, but then also what like I was reading with these responses that students were giving in this study, is that it's all about seeing students' assets. What are my assets? And please build on that to help my educational journey. And so that's a big thing that we think about with our multilingual learners too, in the sense of very quickly, even the word English learner, that has like a deficit perspective, because we're already identifying like what the student isn't able to do yet, right?
So true.
And so that's why we say multilingual learner. And so, but again, like it just very quickly can go down this pathway of they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this. And so what I loved, what the students were asking for, what the moms were asking for, is that it's start with the asset. Like where does my student thrive? Where are they passionate? What is it that makes them amazing? And then build on that. And that's exactly what my question is every time when I meet a new student that is learning English, but at the same time, that's where that was the exclamation point that I was putting in my notes every time I read this. So yeah.
Oh, awesome.
That's good.
Thank you so much. Okay, Peter. Okay, considering your mission-driven approach and the emphasis on meaningful relationships, which I know that is your cornerstone, how can educators better build and maintain trust with Black students in a way that supports their academic and emotional well-being?
Well, first, I appreciate both your answers, and especially the part that you're looking at it from a lens of strength-based.
Yeah.
You know, I think too often that we look at things deficit, and I opened up by saying, you know, the at-risk term, we look at it from that. And so when I looked at this, the first thing that resonated with me, and I think I shared this with you, you know, as we got ready, was, you know, Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son. And when you talked about, you know, Black children, like that's me, and that's my mom is a 4-year educator. Again, just as a, you know, as a mom, like, you know, living this and recognizing now as I read those articles, some of the things that I took for granted or I didn't even recognize that she was advocating for, putting forward for me when I was going to school. And I graduated in 1991, giving my age out there, but high school in 1991. And so these were similar things. And so, you know, I looked at one of the first things was that theme 1, imagining schools as a space to learn new and different things.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, you know, from I don't want to say policy or a practice standpoint, but 3 things. 1, establishing not safe spaces, but brave spaces for not just Black scholars, but especially Black and brown scholars. That's what I advocate for.
Yeah.
But all scholars do have not just safe spaces, because relatively speaking, regardless of what, where we're at in this country, and I know we, gun control and all those other things, but brave spaces. Scholars have said, I want a brave space to come in and truly be my authentic self. And we put that out there, but in some ways we don't really abide by that.
Yeah.
The foundation of all this is relationships, without question. I mean, it's not, a new initiative or a pilot. It's about relationships. And we're oftentimes very, very data rich, but we're relationship poor.
Come on.
Yeah.
And so we recognize that, not always, relationships aren't the thing that's going to solve everything. But if you don't have it, you're definitely not going to be able to address any component or any piece of it. So, those were 2 things for me that really stood out, as well as that mindset. And it's not even shifting a mindset. It's really, truly being like, this scholar belongs here.
Yeah.
Not that we're doing things to make somebody fit, but this scholar belongs here, and we use the term making them a capable learner. We want to position people as capable learners. Our scholars are already
They're
learning.
already.
Yeah.
They don't need to be positioned as capable learners. We need to recognize them as learners in this space.
Well said. So good. Thank you. Okay, back to Dr. Phillips. In your role as an education consultant, what approaches have you employed to build? Nope, we're going to do a different question, aren't we?
Okay.
You ready? All right. Based on your leadership experience, how can educators and policymakers better support youth in constructing their own table?
I loved that phrase, constructing your own table. Come on.
I know.
That was perfect, because
Yes.
sometimes we're trying to sit at tables that we should be trying to knock over. I just heard that somewhere, and I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
No, but our scholars, again, they are so capable, to your point, and they want the opportunity.
Yes.
And so what I would say to my colleagues, to policymakers, to researchers, to educators, to our community, to parents, we need to support them in that and give the opportunity, the space, the support, fortify them in that work. And so one of the things, even as I'm thinking of the school that we're forming, we're doing dream labs with the girls who are the ages that are coming to the school, because then they are able to, not after the fact, not in a performative or tokenized way, but we're starting from the positive core of what's great for you, and then you're freedom dreaming about what can be, but also throughout the process. It doesn't stop there. In the co-construction, they need to be a part. In the evaluation and sustaining, they need to be a part. We say continuous school improvement, youth need to be a part of every step of that process.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so time is flying, and so we're going to start to wind down the conversation. So the way we're going to do this is I want you to look to the future of education. We know that better is always possible. So when you think about what's on the horizon, what are you either most excited about or most passionate? What's in the future? Anyone?
I think, I think a lot of people reference that COVID, changed the landscape. And the bottom line is what it did is it heightened or showcased a lot of strengths, but it also illustrated a lot of discrepancies that were already there. And so my hope for the future is that COVID established a common bond, that it is something as horrific as many of those aspects were, it provided one thing that nobody can say that they were exempt from.
Yep.
And so with that, my hope is that, we have the opportunity to reconnect individuals to education in a different type of way, and especially with the elevation of scholar voice.
Yeah.
And that was seen throughout, not only just during COVID, but the social unrest and the social justice movements. And so I'm really excited because that was at the forefront, and it showcased itself in a way that brought forward change. And so I'm excited about that. I think we need to act on that beyond ESSER dollars, beyond financial investment, but this is there and it does not cost anything.
Amen. So good. Either of you ladies?
I would say I will be excited, and here's my freedom dreaming.
I love it.
Do
Come
it.
on,
Do
we're
it.
dreaming here.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to see a world of education where it's participatory in nature. Our youth are a part of it, so they feel invested in it, and we're not seeing the disparities that we see because their identity is at the forefront. And so we'll no longer have to be saying the chants of Black Minds Matter because it will just be. We will just know.
Yeah.
It will just be as it is.
I love that. We always have to say something that isn't obvious. And so when it's obvious, we won't have to say it anymore.
It'll just be.
Amen. All right, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. This conversation literally just got started. I hope that this conversation continues right where you are at, that you heard something today that you will go and talk with your colleagues about, because we have work to do. But what is coming is going to be great, and it's because together we can transform education one conversation at a time.